The Topkapi manuscripts housed in Turkey is one of the earliest Quranic manuscripts that we know of, but it is different in thousands of ways from today's Quran. We'll tell you why this matters. To continue our discussions concerning early Quranic manuscripts, and we gave a quick and brief background last time about the earliest Quranic manuscripts, and today we're going to focus on one of them. That's the Topkapi. And I want to say up front, you're going to hear a lot of Muslims mentioning to you that the Topkapi is the complete Quranic copy. That's not true. That it is the most accurate and compatible to today's 1924 Quran. That's not true as well. But I'll let Dr. J unpack all of that for us. Dr. J, welcome back.
Good. Nice to be back with you again. And this Topkapi, and I've got it right here. This is the Topkapi. This costs hundreds and hundreds of dollars. It's now probably thousands. This is a facsimile of the entire Topkapi. And you have to have it written in a script here so you can read what's here, because you can't read what's here, obviously, because this is such an early manuscript. It's an 8th century manuscript. It's not a 7th century manuscript. We already know that. And if you go through it, you can see pages, some part of it you can't even read because it's been water damaged.
Yeah.
So they didn't even keep a good care of it. It even looks like it's been written by different scribes and different over periods of time. So we don't even know how long it took to write this, and we can't do carbon dating of the text because of the fact that when you carbon date, you only carbon date the parchment,
the leather,
the animal
exactly.
skin.
Yeah.
Not when the ink was applied to it. But let's just look at it. I'd like to go to the slides now, and let's just look at this manuscript, and let's unpack it a little bit. Well, you can see there's the cover, and you can see even some of the pages are missing. Whole entire pages are missing. Half the material is missing on that here. And you can see there, every time you see one of these colorons here, that's from one verse to one chapter to the next. That's a surah, heading. Let's go to the next page here. When you look up here, conclusions according to what Altıkılıç, this is the scholar who had spent 5 years looking at it. He is the one that really controls this manuscript because it's there in the Topkapi Palace. He is in Istanbul himself, so he's had access to this more than anybody else. And he dates this to the second half of the 1st century and the first half of the 2nd century due to the voweling and the dotting. And so he's already putting from the early to mid 8th century. Even though we would like to publish this sacred text as the Musaf of Caliph Uthman, our research indicated that it was neither the private Musaf of Caliph Uthman nor one of the Musafs he sent to various centers. So he makes that admission right from the upgo. He dates it, again, to the 8th century. We're going to find out new material that's coming out next spring that's now going to date it even later. So hold on. I can't say it yet. I'm not able to do that because it's not been published. But there's a new scholar who you and I know, he's a good friend of ours, who has just finished his doctorate on the Topkapi.
That's right. Yeah, that's his
specialty. He has spent years studying just this manuscript, and he's going to give us some interesting new material, but it probably won't come to be published until next spring. So hold on to that, those of you who are watching. Conclusion of the Altıkılıç back in 2007, they said there are deviations from grammatical rules, the lan, and spelling mistakes in the Musafs attributed to Caliph Uthman. In fact, he concludes there are 2,270 instances where there is a difference from the consonantal skeleton of the Fad Musaf. The Fad Musaf would be the 1924, which was then in 1985 made the official text. That's the Hafs text that we all talk about. So that's this one that I have here, this little guy. This is the Hafs text. 1985 is when he says Fad. So when you look at 1985 and you compare it with the Topkapi, 2,270 letters, words, that means meanings and all. These are consonantal texts. Remember, this is consonantal differences, not dots or vowels. That's what he's talking about. Hugely significant. You'll see why in just a bit. Now, here's an example. Dr. Keith Small, when he was living, this is what two that he wrote in his book. You have the chapter 14, verse 38. You have the Topkapi over here, and it says, "You know what we conceal and what he revealed." In the Cairene text, the 1924, which is known as the Fad text 1985, the text that we have here in our hands, in that same verse, it says, "You know what we conceal and what we reveal." So from he, it's been pluralized. So that has huge significance.
Definitely. One is talking about, let's say the Topkapi is saying, it's almost like Allah is talking and saying, somebody, let's say Muhammad is the one who revealed, or vice versa, right? Muhammad is talking about himself in a plural, which is uncommon, and saying that Allah revealed. In the second one, it's the same person talking about himself revealing something.
Or we could be the plural tense for God himself.
That's right.
Say, God refers to himself in the plural tense all the way through the Quran.
Yeah.
Here's another one. This is Surah 3, 158. And in the Topkapi, it says, if you should die or be slain, you shall not be gathered. But in the surah that we see today, it says, if you should die or be slain before him, you shall undoubtedly be gathered. It completely contradicts itself.
That's right. This is Judgment Day. So what's going to happen? Are you going to be gathered before him or not?
That's a theological problem
Exactly.
there as far as belief and practice, if that's the case. I want to show you some of the material that Dan Brubaker has brought up with the Topkapi. Dan Brubaker has looked all through this. And here is a reference to chapter 9, verse 72. If you could just read that, if you can read that, I don't know if you can or not.
وَرِضْوَانٌ مِّنَ اللَّهُ أَكْبَرُ ذَلِكَ هُوَ الْفَوْزُ الْعَظِيمُ.
So,
and the huwa is the issue here.
There it is right there. See where the green arrows point? That little word huwa has been added at a later date. It's a smaller script.
Right. So it's kind of like adding a definitive, thing. Like we're talking about the great reward. This is going to be the great.
So it's
reward.
nothing more than putting emphasis on it.
It's emphasis. Without it, you could still read it and understand it.
Perfectly okay without it.
Exactly.
So what's it doing there?
Well, it seemed like it could be a part of the standardization going backward, reverse engineering.
It's because this has it there.
That's right. Yeah.
So it's standardizing the tests, putting in there so it agrees with the Hafs text, the 1924 RS.
And we know this because this is a Kufic text, and Hoa is not in the Kufic text, and it's obvious that somebody added it later.
There you go. Okay, so there's again a Topkapi. Here's one where the name Allah has been added in the margin.
The missing Allah,
in
course.
chapter 66, verse 8.
Yeah.
Lam lam he, Allah, has been added with a completely different nib. Can you see that? A much smaller nib.
That's right.
Why? Because they need the God's name there because it's in the Hafs text. It's standardizing it, bringing it up to date. So you can see that this is another variant. These are not unsubstantial. Here is the Topkapi, where in chapter 4, verse 167, in the number 1 up here, the first erasure of the letter Allah is in green arrows. That's right here. You can see it's been added. It's been taken away. They've erased it because it's one too many. So that's a scribal mistake. Number 2 down here, the blue one, shows the shadow of what was first written, and which was Alihi Qad.
Allahu Qad.
Allah He Qad. Okay, already has already, or Allah has already. They've erased that out. Why?
Because it doesn't match.
It doesn't match, and it's not in the Hafs text.
Right.
Up 3 here is one that Dan was just still looking at. Here's another erasure. It can be found in line 10 as well. But he hasn't really studied this. You can't tell what has been erased. You can try to see what's been erased. He doesn't really know, but obviously a letter has been erased. So here you can see 3 different manipulations in chapter 4, verse 160 in the Topkapi, proving that there has been manipulation.
But the most important thing about these erasers and corrections, it shows that there was a fluid process of editing the text at a later time.
At a later time. But you cannot say in any shape or form that the Topkapi is complete, or that it has never been changed, or that it is the standard text. And remember, this has already been dated to I want to get this right, 749, so mid-8th century is what its current date is. We're going to hear different in about another 5 or 6 months. In 2023, we're going to hear a completely different date, and they're going to prove it why, but I can't say it yet. We're not permitted to do that until they publish it.
Wonderful. What are we going to talk about next before we wrap up?
We're then going to go into the next one, which is the Samarkand.
Wonderful. Thank you, and thank you everyone for joining. Until next time, have a blessed day. Thank you for watching this video. Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel CIRA International and click on the bell so that you receive notifications whenever we publish a new video or go live. I would also like to appeal to you to consider becoming a Patreon patron by clicking the link right below. By doing so, you can give towards the production of these videos. There are also other options for you where you can give to our channel. I thank you from the bottom of my heart.